Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies podcast coming to you live. And I got a great guest today. His name is Mike Sipple Jr. His father is senior, obviously. And he has two companies. One's called Talent Magnitude Institute, and the other is Centennial. And I had the pleasure of interviewing Mike. And he's the president of a third generation executive search firm. And that is called Centennial. And he's the co-founder and CEO of a global leadership platform consultancy, which is called the Talent Magnitude Institute. And he also has his own podcast, and it reaches about 46,000 listeners worldwide. He interviews leaders from all over the world. He's a writer, he's an advisor, a public speaker, a holistic leader, inclusive and equitable workplaces, and does a lot of good things on how to be a talent magnet. And in our episode here, we discussed hiring in general. How do you hire and how do you elevate that person within the organization? It is a key growth strategy because adding more people, salespeople, increases your reach as long as you do it in the right way. So, but you want to hire the right salespeople, as we all know. And Mike has, gone through this for a long time. He's been around for, 20 plus years, seen a lot of good stuff. But what I love about him is he's always proactive and he's constantly trying to grow and stay ahead of his industry and stay ahead in the human growth of the person themselves, bringing out their greatness in the organization. So he's an advocate and a consummate student of this process as well, and he brings that to his clients. So should be a great interview. You'll probably hear me reintroduce him. Let's go to the interview now. Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown back with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast, and I have an excellent guest here today, and I'm very excited to speak with him because he is a very skilled, and I would call him an expert in the field of hiring and unlocking people's potential and their greatest assets for potential within a company. And his name is Mike Sipple, and I'm going to welcome Mike to the call now. Welcome, Mike.
Doug, thank you so much for having us. I'm very excited to be here with you and your audience.
So, Mike, thanks for being here. And could you tell us, I know you own two companies. Could you kind of tell us what you do so we can set the frame for the next
Yeah,
part?
Absolutely. So I'm the president and primary shareholder of a boutique executive search firm that basically helps organizations in succession planning and building high-performing teams. So I've been doing that for 21 years, and 4 years ago, my leadership team of that search firm and my father and I, we co-founded a leadership development platform called the Talent Magnet Institute, which is basically a leadership community for individuals who know that the bottom line is important, but want to lead beyond the bottom line, and that are leveraging coaching, consulting best practices, organizational development, human development best practices, and their leadership approach to becoming a talent magnet. So I've got two teams, one that has about 16 people on it for our search firm. Our talent development organization has around 45 people as a whole connected to it through employees and 1099.
And one of the reasons I really am happy you're here, Mike, is because you work with a lot of great clients and people, and a lot of them have built companies well over $5 million in revenue. So you get some exposure to what's going on within their companies, and hopefully we could share a few of those strategies. Today, I'd love to focus on the hiring, because hiring is a huge pain point for many organizations, and not so much even hiring, but how do you hire the right talent? And then how do you develop that talent, which is what a lot of companies I have found have, they can bring an A player to their company, but they can't keep the A player because they're not developing the potential of that person or giving them the pathway. Have you ever found that in your travels?
Oh, countless times, Doug. The other dynamic that we see is just because they're an A player in one environment and in one culture doesn't mean that you're going to be able to unlock their potential when they join you, right? So, yes, I mean, there's no doubt, people leave for a reason. People perform well for a reason, right? And the more intentional we all are, and we can unpack that in this episode, of the way things to think about that, like, oh, that makes complete sense, but so easily we forget, right? That people are human, people need the right support, they need the right motivation, and most importantly, they need to be aligned to your strategy. And organizations, to be frank, they stink at it, aligning their talent to their strategy.
And that's so key in any, I would say, performance of anything, really, when it comes down to it, because, I look at sports and I see sometimes, the quarterback of one team, like I'll stay with the New England Patriots because I know them. And, so we had a particular quarterback who, he got some playing time, but, Tom Brady was there and he didn't get the playing time. And then all of a sudden he gets traded off or acquired by San Francisco and they go to the Super Bowl. Right. So that's unlocking somebody's potential at another location. And then, we've all seen the sports, person, oh my gosh, we're going to be traded. I remember the Red Sox acquired this third baseman from, I think it was San Diego originally. And they paid him something like $31 million a year, and he couldn't perform at all with the Red Sox, but he was good at the other team.
Yeah.
So I think your point to, just because somebody is an A player at one company doesn't necessarily mean they will be an A player company at the other company. It really has to have all that other alignment.
That's right. And spending the time there. So what our search firm, we have a proprietary process called the 4C recruiting process, where character, culture, chemistry, and competency are the four things that we're constantly looking at from an organizational perspective and an individual perspective. Why does that matter? Because if they understood what made that individual so successful, not just in the criteria and KPIs they were supposed to hit, but the environment they were around, the support team they had, the peers, the individuals, the environment that they worked in, the culture that was created, that type of activity unlocks individuals' full potential, right? So if you go back to an individual who's wasn't a player and has failed miserably in their next environment, and you go, I didn't know you had a sales assistant in your last company. And they're like, well, yeah, she or he's the one who made me a rock star, right? Those kinds of things, we don't ask enough questions. And we need to, or, you know what, they also provided XYZ benefit, and that motivated me so much, I'd walk through walls for them, right? But you don't hear. And I just don't feel as motivated to do the things that I love doing best. So, we have to understand that. I always say, especially with organizations that are of a little bit lighter revenue, that sometimes there's only legacy talent that's ever been successful in sales.
Right.
And there's a reason. And when we make it too hard for people to break in, or we just expect them to hit the ground running, right? Which is, to be frank, we all understand what that means, but sometimes we take it too literal and we just don't give people the foundation to even be successful.
I have found that time and time again. In fact, a lot of companies hire me to come in to assess their sales process before they start hiring people. When they're smart, they do that, right? Because many, many times I will find things like, okay, you do not have an adequate onboarding process and training process for the company. Or I got to love this one, Mike. They're asking all candidates all different questions. So there's no way to actually, score, right?
Your consistency. Yep.
And so they hire on, geez, I like this person. So I thought he'd be good in sales. His resume looked good, which I'm like, everybody lies on their resume to some degree. Right. So, but so what you're saying is, look at how they worked in the past jobs, and don't be in a rush in the interview process, or in the hiring process to actually ask these quality questions, because those are the small, I would call them the small rock that if you pull it out, all the other rocks start sliding.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Doug, I mean, you asking people what do you believe has made you most successful? What did your support team look like? What did the sales process look like that you believed allow you to move your clients further faster because of what your last organization had set up? Or what do you set up when you come into a new environment in order to optimize the strengths that you bring and also manage the weaknesses that you bring, right? So again, it's one of the reasons why people who have been in roles for extended periods of time, whether that's 3 years or 12 years or longer, they have built systems around them to help them optimize their day-to-day, week-to-week, quarter-to-quarter processes. And we need to understand those so that we can help further support. And this is what we do when we peel back the onion layers, when we're building a sales team, when we're adding key sales talent, hiring sales leadership, hiring individual contributors that are critical to an organization's success. We're going deep into those details because the details matter. And the, achieve this goal, increase sales by, reduced expense, all of those kinds of things. Those sound great on a resume, but I want to know how. I want to know why. What motivated you to hit those goals 5 years in a row, right? The other area is, what about the rest of the organization? How did you handle internal engagements, and how did you manage internal processes to make sure your clients were satisfied? What was the handoff between supply chain and operations and marketing and the sales organization? I want to hear how they're thinking, what they've done to make others successful as well, because it takes more than one person to make a client satisfied, right?
Yeah. And I think what you said here is so key, because you're looking at the 360 holistic view of the candidate and how it fits in the organization. And you're looking at the organization from a 360 point of view, saying, how does it match the candidate?
Right.
And I have found, because I stay particularly with salespeople, you hire executives for all types as well as top performing sales talent. I have found in companies when I go in there that they haven't looked at these facets. They're in such a rush to hire somebody.
Yes.
And I try to explain to them up front. It's like, look, if you make the bad hire, it's going to take you 2-3 months to recover from that. Then if you do the same process, you're going to do it 2 or 3 times before you figure out. So you've gone through 3 or 4 candidates before you even get the right candidate, right? So why not take, instead of 3 months, take 4 months or 5 months and get the right person? Because the cost of turnover of a salesperson,
high.
It's high. It's very high, right? So some people spend $1 million acquiring a salesperson, because you got to figure base salaries and all kinds of lost revenue and all kinds of things that happen from that.
And the customer experience when you transition an account or when you're introducing the new sale, like all of that is opportunity cost or opportunity to generate more and to increase. That all has to go into the thought process of why we have to get alignment with everyone before we go and hire. We need to define not what we've hired in the past, but what's important for our future, right? So often companies are looking for the problem that they can see this close, right up in their eyes, the whole trees and forest analogy. But what are we actually trying to create here? Where do we see ourselves in 2, 3, 5 years, and hire for the future? because so often we hire for what was in the past and then we wonder why people aren't helping us get to the future, right? I mean, it happens all the time. And specifically in sales, people lack patience, right? Business development, relation development, trust and building relational capital does take time. And again, you have to remember when individuals have been successful in past roles, they've had that time to build that relational capital. So you have to think about that dynamic too, and opportunity cost, that it takes time. I remember I had a VP of sales that I worked with in the food and beverage industry. And his comment was that until, in fact, a few individuals that we had placed with him had called me and said, the head of sales has zero patience and doesn't understand that it's going to take time for us to be successful. And I called that head of sales to share that message, that you're sending this frustration throughout your new hires, and they're frustrated and feel ill-equipped. They feel like they've already lost your trust before they ever even started, right? Really building momentum, and you need to be patient. And I'm happy to say after 12 years, we had placed 10 individuals, 9 are still with the organization, and that company went from 150 million to 525 million in that time period, right? With that sales organization grew and expanded and they added more, but that base of that 9 sales leaders, this head of sales backed off a little bit and said, I'm going to give you time. I'm going to be more patient, because you hired us and we were already behind 6 quarters, right? Or 6 months. So just having patience also matters. While we know we have to be diligent, we know we have to be aggressive, and we got to go for the goals, but also have patience with your sales team.
What I'm hearing is, Mike, is it's the power of doing it right. And we're talking with Mike Sipple. He is the owner of the Talent Magnitude Institute and Centennial, I'll call it executive and sales search. Mm-hmm. Very smart guy. And Mike, I can imagine people are sitting here or listening and driving, and they're going, okay, you guys got my attention. I do want to hire top performing people, and not just sales, but in all aspects. Where do I start? What do I do?
Yeah,
what would you say?
Question. One, I would continue to listen to episodes of this podcast, because you're going to gain some great insights from people who have been there before. 2, sit down with your team and talk about it, right? Think about what you need to be successful over the next 18 and 36 months. What's going to help us get to our goals? Talk about that with your leadership team to build clarity and alignment, and then spend some time with your current successful sales talent and the individuals who interact with that talent inside your organization. Find out what they think helps them be most successful, right? Do some internal assessment and some internal alignment. Then create that clarity, have the message, and go to market with that message. Right? Here's what we're looking for. Here's the environment we provide. Do you thrive in X, Y, and Z? If so, we believe we can provide the culture for you. Here are the types of individuals, the behaviors that we know are most successful in our organization, and that's what we're seeking, right? So spend the time up front to measure 3 times, cut once, right? Take your time to plan, share the message, have your elevator pitch of what talent you're always looking for. That would be another thing, Doug, I would add. Don't treat it as a on and off switch with sales talent. Treat it as a magnet where we're welcoming people with these types of behaviors to do this and achieve that with our organization. And here's the purpose and why we do what we do. If this is you, we would love for you to contact us. We would love for our employees to be sharing that good word with their network, because you should always be looking for top sales talent.
Yeah, because people don't stay and times change and different things happen. So you want to be on the cutting edge of that, at least having your pipeline filled with candidates over time. And then I have found, Mike, when people do that, they're all of a sudden, hey, a magical new position can open up in a company.
That's right.
And expand their sales.
That's right.
And I love what you said about internal assessment and alignment first, and then get the messaging down, because that's the thing that I preach to people all the time. And, a lot of times people hire me just to do that part of it. Like, just come in, if they don't have time to do it. So I'll go in and I'll do the scoping, and figure it all out for them and get them everything that they need. And I always tell people, listen, you don't want to be running down a bumpy road with gunpowder in your hand. Right. Because
that's right.
In your sales team,
make a bad decision. Right?
Exactly. And boom. Right. And I took that when I was in the military. I saw people running from cannon to cannon, with charges and gunpowder. And I was like, oh my gosh. Right. But the reality is, if people do smooth that all up front, like you saying they should, if they do that all up front, they'll have a better hire on the back end, because all of that clears the way,
right?
To bring somebody on successfully, to make sure that they are successful, to be able to build their talent within the organization.
Yes.
Sage advice.
And it's the only way, right? So when individuals say, how do you do these things successfully? We're equipping our clients to be very intentional, maybe uncomfortably so, right? Mm-hmm. Because most people, especially individuals I have found, like myself, that are in the sales and rainmaking and BD space, patience is typically not our number one trait, right? And that's what's made us successful. Right. But I can tell you, taking the extra time to create the alignment and buy-in across the organization and within the function will help one, you make sure you're going after the right people, you're sending the right message. And if more are involved in creating the role and what we need to achieve more success and additional success, then the easier that person will onboard and assimilate into their new environment.
Yeah,
I think because people are like, we've been waiting for you. We cannot wait to help you be successful.
That is critically important, because several reasons, but one of the main things that I've seen happen is, okay, the CEO and the sales team get together, or the sales VP would get, we're going to hire somebody, right?
That's right. But
they never go to operations and say, listen, if we hire 5 people and we ramp it up quickly, can you handle this? Right. Right. They make the assumption, or, they don't include, customer service, which to me is a sales function anyways. But in the salespeople are selling and everything's getting dumped onto customer service.
Right.
It just creates all of the stress within an organization. But if operations, customer service, human resources, whatever, benefit planning, whatever needs to be in the company, including marketing, is all aligned. And they say, listen, this is what makes a great client journey here at our company. And this is how we would recommend that what you would look at when you're going to buy, get a sales person or get a sales manager or whatever it might be.
That's right. That's absolutely right. The other thing is, use to your advantage. Again, if you're proactive and you're not, I understand that there are deals that happen that you need to hire someone now because the fire has been lit, someone's resigned, something took place that was unfortunate, that the person had to exit quickly. But if you can get proactive, you can even involve your customers, right? Asking your clients who they have loved to work with over their career, who are the individuals that stand out to you, of the people that were a joy when they sat across from you to put together some of the biggest, most successful deals in your career. Even if those individuals don't become candidates, they will refer you to other top talent, right? It's a secret sauce, Doug. It's one of the things that we do. We're always asking, can we talk to a few of your top clients, right? And if we're successful, we might get 12 additional names just from talking to your customer who wants you to be successful, right? So you're not going to get individuals that aren't successful because they know they might end up in this seat right across from them in the next top to top or client meeting or plan review, et cetera. So it's another great strategy of identifying very successful sales talent.
Excellent. So, okay. So we've done all that groundwork. We got them all the way there. We've even kind of gone, now we're kind of to the interview process, right? Or we're kind of to the, let's gather them an interview process. Where do you see companies making mistakes in that process as well? I mean, they got all the ground information done, but still it can fall apart.
Yeah. So one is just not being organized, not having, we don't believe that everyone should be asking the same questions as like individual. If I'm going through 5 interviews, you need to have some diversity in those interview questions. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that the people interviewing are interested in being in the interviewing process, because things blow up when a high performing candidate walks in and goes, this individual didn't even want to be in the room with me. They were on to the next thing, right? Nothing ruins an interview process more quickly than making someone feel unwanted, which happens all the time. The other dynamic is feedback, right? Being able to have a consistent, well-managed process. Treat your candidates as if they were a future customer. It will blow your mind how different you will start looking at the interview process. Mm-hmm. If you say, you know what, and most of you listening to this would go, is it possible that if I'm interviewing sales talent, that sales talent could at some point be with a client or customer of mine, and they're going to remember their experience with us, right? It's a game changer when you go, oh my gosh, that could actually happen. Mm-hmm. And oh, by the way, your bad interviewing experiences could affect your sales pipeline, right? Because people are out sharing negative experiences more than they're sharing positive. And you don't want that to be a negative out in the marketplace that you can't control. So you can get ahead of that. You can control that. So thinking through, what would it be like, and maybe even, go through the process yourself. What does it feel like to be a candidate here in my organization? If I were to go ask the most recent 5 hires that came into my company, what they did and did not like about the interviewing process with us, what would I learn? Well, go ask that question. Right? Yeah, and then maybe call 3 or 4 top candidates that you can remember over the last year. I really like that individual, but I don't know why they're not here. And go ask them, what was the experience like? You can go through lots of different auditing processes to learn that. But having consistent, good experiences for candidates matters. Ensuring that everyone who's in the interviewing process wants to be there and knows that there's no more important role right now in this moment than interviewing this highly qualified candidate to attract them to our business. That's going to grow our business. So put the phone down, remove your distractions. This time with this individual is paramount for your business's success.
What I'm hearing, Mike, is instead of hiring for an ideal profile, hire for the ideal client, right? Because like if we go look for a client and we're doing marketing, for example, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of companies will talk about, well, we got to get our ideal profile down. Mm-hmm. But what I say is that's part of your ideal client. What do you want the actual client to be, not just the profile of the person? Mm-hmm. And in the case of hiring sales talent, any people can fit a profile, but they can't fit the ideal client. So I love what you said about, hey, if you were going to be interview them as they were the end buyer, right? In a lot of ways. And I'm a big proponent on simulate the working conditions in the process of hiring. Mm-hmm. So you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
This is good stuff, Mike. I really appreciate this. And I know the listeners are as well. I'd like to ask you a question regarding, up-leveling talent, right? Because I know this is a big passion of yours. And I remember reading an article you wrote, and one of your good friends had passed away. I think it was in 2019. So sorry for that. But that kind of sparked you on a pathway to actually not just be an executive search firm, but to spin off a talent magnet institute
right.
for leadership and for growing people's potential.
Yeah.
Some people will say, well, yeah, I know the leaders, they should be, leaders are born, not made, or whatever, right? But I've always understood that everybody tends to have some leadership characteristics.
That's right.
But they're not trained on how to be a leader or not trained on how to open up their potential. And I love what you said in another article, which is organizations who build enough trust for their people and are willing to take risk, empower their people.
That's right.
Could you speak to, okay, we got the hire, et cetera. They're doing fine. How important is it to develop them into a leader or to develop their human potential versus just their job role?
Yeah. To us, Doug, it's everything, right? As an employer, we should be looking at the individuals as humans, not someone who's here to just do a job, right? I mean, we've heard often, especially in the last year plus, about allowing people to be their whole selves. I mean, you and I both know when we show up, we're bringing everything with us of who we are, what we've experienced, and what we've lived. Mm-hmm. And I care deeply about the people that I'm around and that have said yes to the offers that we've made of them to join us. And I know that if I help them be successful at the things they're trying to achieve personally, I mean, let's be truthful, you don't live to work, right? You work to live. And there's things that you do as you work that enables the things that you want to do in your life. We're looking for a job that we love, that we're passionate about, but also that enables the other things we want to achieve. So, so often there are individuals who don't get personal enough, right? I mean, you referenced a good friend of mine who passed away. He actually took his life. There was a deep, dark loneliness, and yet this individual was on the cover of the book, one of the most successful people that most people would say they've ever known, right? And yet there were things going on that he didn't feel like he could turn to individuals. And unfortunately, there's also mental health struggles and challenges that led to him taking his own life. Our goal as two organizations is to create environments where people feel safe, they feel valued, they feel heard, they feel understood. I want to know the challenges that my employees are wrestling through so that we can see, is there anything we can do to help, right? Again, I've heard a variety of leaders over the years that have said, this organization, when my daughter got cancer, they supported my family in ways that I could never have even imagined. I'll never leave this company.
Right.
I have one sales executive who approached me at a conference in Chicago about 5 years ago that said, Mike, I have never worked in a culture. I was at a client dinner as a part of the conference. And he said, I've never worked in a culture where I have felt more safe and I could actually do my job without worrying about what was going on behind me, beside me, underneath, and above me. I can do my best work. And he said, Doug, I've been in sales for 32 years and I've never felt this way, right? Like that's an environment you want to create for your people. So essentially, that's what we advocate for. That's what we seek out. We look for companies and leaders that are trying to create that environment for humans. I know if I give a leader 3 questions to ask their team over the next 3 weeks, if I go ask their team in 3 weeks, how are things going? Their team will come back and say, my gosh, I feel so understood here, right? And all of a sudden, barriers that they have in their minds, things that they're wrestling with and struggling with, you can't leave it behind and at home when you come to work. We just can't, right? Especially now where a lot of us are still working in our home. Right. So we've got to get personal. We've got to understand appropriately personal, which unfortunately we have to say, but we need to care about our people. We need to think beyond the bottom line. We need to remember that it's a privilege to have employees who have said yes to you. It's a privilege to compensate employees for them achieving success. And they are helping us ultimately achieve what we're trying to achieve. So let's all get together and figure out how we can help each other win, right? That's essentially what we're doing at the Talent Magnet Institute. We're providing the tools, the mindsets, the resources, and the community to help us start thinking about how to become a talent magnet, how to help others reach their fullest potential and feel valued, heard, and understood.
So, Mike, I know you have a pretty cool little cool quiz, if you will, on your website, right? Yeah. And can I give people the URL for the quiz to go take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to talentmagnet.com/quiz, talentmagnet.com/quiz, it is a self-care assessment that will help you identify where you are and how to immediately take actions to get into either maintain where you are and keep doing that. And here are tools to keep you focused. And, or, Doug, I took it 5 months ago and recognized that I am not feeling that, I'm overworking. I'm not taking care of myself. I've been in the grind, making sure that the company stays alive and our clients are vibrant and things are happening, because it has been a grind for all of us. We've all dealt with all types of, in some cases, devastating change, in some cases, incredible opportunity that's brought more stress to our lives than ever. And I did a little self-check and realized, I got to get back on my spinning bike. I need to boot up the Peloton app. I need to hire my trainer again that I had let go because I had gotten so busy. Right. Literally, when I contacted her, she said, Mike, was everything okay? Because it seems like we started rescheduling appointments and then you were poof, gone. And it was like, I allowed work to consume me, and that's not healthy. So I always tell my team, they kind of, this is what I talk about publicly all over the world. And I kind of joke with my team, they use my own medicine against me, and it shook me to my core. So again, it's a free quiz, lots of resources designed and in there, talentmagnet.com/quiz.
Yeah, go take the quiz, folks. It's an interesting quiz, and you'll learn something about yourself. And if you find, like Mike just said, that you're overworking yourself and you're not taking care of yourself, remember, if you don't have your health, everything else is going to fall apart. It's it's no more complicated than that, or no more simplistic than that. So, Mike, I want to thank you for being here. It's been a great pleasure. I know you had some leadership discussion cards. Do you want to give those away, or?
Yeah. So what I'd love to do, if you go to talentmagnet.com and you go to /giveaway, talentmagnet.com/giveaway, we said for all of you in the audience of this podcast, we want to give the first. Actually, we'll do a random drawing of 5 individuals and send you some leadership discussion cards. I mentioned earlier about asking great questions. We'll do a random drawing of 5 individuals and provide you these discussion cards. They also come with our membership at talentmagnet.com. So we'd be happy to welcome anyone into that community as well. But I think it'll help you elevate your leadership. It'll be something, if you have direct reports and they have direct reports, that you can hand off to them. This is intended for people, leaders, individuals who are influencing every day and building into others. So it would be an honor to provide that to at least 5 of you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. And I know people will. And by the way, folks, we'll post all these links in the show notes for you. So you'll be able to get those in case you're driving, and, don't pull your pen out and look down, please.
That's right. Please do not.
So, all right. Well, again, Mike, I want to really thank you for being here. In closing, anything maybe you were hoping, hey, I hope he asked this question and he didn't, or anything like that?
Doug, I think you did a fantastic job drawing out and clicking on the key aspects of what we had talked about. I just encourage us all, just be intentional. right? Be intentional in your personal life, be intentional in your work life. We talk about it's life prioritization. There's no such thing as full balance, in my opinion. You're constantly prioritizing what's most important. But as you just referenced, we've got to take care of ourselves, and you need to help others take care of themselves too. And you know what? The scary part is you might be the first employer who's ever cared enough to help take care of those on your team. Do that, and some of the B players will turn into A's. Some of the C's will turn into A minuses, and you'll have a high performing team before you know it, just because you're taking the next step to elevate your people.
I fully concur and promote everything you just said. So thank you for saying it again. Well, Mike, thanks again. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Hey, everyone. It's Doug C. Brown again with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast, and that was a great episode. I learned a lot. How about you folks? The thing is about hiring is it's really not just about an ideal profile. It's about how do you create an ideal culture for the people that are coming in so that you get really what I would call the ideal client, right? I mean, we look in business, for example, for a client that not only can buy and is qualified, but that we're actually going to enjoy being around, and we're actually going to have happier days because they're there. The people that you hire also directly affect everyone's mood and everyone's day. And so if you hire the right people, they all work in a symbiotic relationship. Obviously, if you hire the incorrect way, people that are not a good fit, they create, I would say, destruction and devastation in some capacities in the organization. And it's extremely important to be patient. Mike and I were talking about that as part of the interview, as you know. And, do it right. Don't just get in there. Sometimes you got to hire quickly. I get it. But if you can take a little bit of extra time and have some patience in that process, you are going to fare extremely well. All right. Well, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. And once again, if you have any comments, please send them. If you love this one or any of the other CEO Sales Strategy podcasts, please give it a great review. 5-star would be nice. And share it with your friends. And let me know what you want me to talk about next, who you might want me to interview, and I'll be happy to go get those guests. I do this for my own personal pleasure of doing a podcast, but I also do it because I know it helps people. And how do I know that? People send me emails and comments and LinkedIn and all kinds of things. And don't forget to check out the giveaway and the quiz on Mike and his website. All right, until next time, go sell something, go sell a lot, be successful to your success.